Welcome to my Freedom Journal journey. I am Nonkololego Sishi, and in today's episode, I'll be sharing my first emotional perception influence. Now, an emotional perception influence is a time in one's life that affected the way in which they see life and go about life. I was just a few months away from turning 7 years old, and at the time I was living with both my parents and my younger brother in a small town in the south of KZN called Amkamas. Now, my memories before this particular experience were nothing short of pure joy. Presents and happy parents, helping out with homework, singing and dancing in the living room, sleepovers in the bedroom, the works. Nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. It absolutely felt out of the blue. So on this particular day, my mom drove my younger brother and myself to my aunt's house, which is about a 45 minutes drive away. At that time, I didn't note anything, but when we got there, I did feel like something was wrong, something was off, except I didn't have an idea or a concept what something bad could possibly be or what it could look like or to the degree in which it would be. And I don't recall being told, but I do know that in the moment, I knew that something had happened. So what happened was, on my mom's way back, my dad committed suicide. And for a very long time, I did not believe I had an appropriate response to the situation. My next memory of that experience is during the funeral, and I was sitting next to my cousin who is just about a year younger than me, and she was bawling her eyes out. And I was just sitting there next to her silently taking it in. And for a very long time, I didn't know what to make of that moment. But now that I've unpacked it, I've understood what had happened. So that experience for me affected me in two particular ways. One, I felt the need to detach. I felt the need to distance myself, to emotionally remove myself in order to make sense of what had happened. I felt like what was going on in the world externally was not exactly what was going on in the world, except I had no idea or concept of an internal world. So for a very long time, I spent, my relationships with other people from a distance because I was trying to understand, is what I'm seeing externally truly what is going on in the next person's life? Now, the next thing that happened for me through that experience was believing that people were somewhat taking time bombs. So what that meant is I somewhat became obsessed with understanding how other people were feeling in order to make sure that they felt better about themselves, that they felt good about themselves. Otherwise, they might explode. And so, after years of being the kind of person who was caring, who was kind, who paid attention, the person you could go to, the person who was understanding, the person who tried to make sense of things, I realized that a lot of the time I put how I felt last because I had to make sure that other people felt better about themselves or life. So I've since sat down and unpacked that, and the only reason why I'm sharing this is because it's important to note the experiences that, have an influence in our character, have an influence in the way in which we behave, in the way in which we see life, because sometimes it might not be the best approach. So that is my first emotional perception influence. And I hope that, it gives people the courage to sit down with themselves and unpack such experiences. So For my next emotional perception influence, you can check it out next week, Monday. Otherwise, you can check out the rest of my channel for my take on the rest of who we are. Take care.